In this video, we'll be taking a look at this computer case from a brand I haven't looked at before, which is Jonsbo, and it's their D41 series computer case, and it's a compact ATX computer case. It says, as a compact ATX desktop case, the D41 series prefers comprehensive hardware support, such as supporting 280 and 360 water cooling radiator, and high performance graphics card with length of at least 330 millimeters. By precisely adjusting the positions of each piece of hardware, each internal and external size setting makes sense. And it shows some of the features of the case. It's got a small desktop footprint. It's a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C port, and the support for the water cooling on the top and the bottom, 360 on both, can be done at the same time. And the GPU support for 330 millimeters. And in this case, it's kind of set up where the ATX port supply is in the front of the case, and that can be adjusted up and down to be able to fit like your graphics card and stuff. And some tool-free design in it. In the back, the case has some more specifications of it. The motherboard support, which is ITX, micro ATX, and ATX. The drive bays, it has 2.5 SSD times 3 and 3.5 hard disk drive times 2. It says the case size, it has 7 PCI expansion slots, and for the front I/O it has USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C times 1, USB 3.0 times 1, and an audio and mic jack. Has CPU cooler support for 168 millimeter height, and most of this other stuff was mentioned in the back. I don't believe it comes with any included fans, so that is a bit of an issue with the value of the case. The reason why I got this case, this is mesh down here, and in this version of this case, it's not pictured here, but it has a screen here that you can hook up to the output of your video on your computer to display different things. It's basically another monitor. So we'll see how that looks. And we'll open it up right away. So here's the screen that's included with it. This is a pretty fine mesh here. And mesh all on the top here. The same fine mesh like it's in the front. Back. Have some buttons here for the screen. Here's the power USB and headphone. And then the tempered glass. It just pulls off. And then standard stuff you get with the case. standoffs, some screws, some cable ties. It's got a power supply cable and some more cables in the back. The front aisle. Also comes with this screen accessory box in the box. Manual on the screen that it comes with. Some sort of hardware. USB Type-C cable. Must be for power, and this is for video. I believe it's just a standard HDMI. And in case you want to swap it back to just the mesh on the front instead of that screen. Got a mesh panel you can replace it with. Here's what the Jonsbo D41 case looks like with a build inside of it. See the front monitor there. It has a 1280 by 800 pixel resolution, I believe. So it's a pretty decent resolution for the size of the screen it is. And on the inside, you can see that the power supply is pretty well hidden in the front there, so it still looks pretty good despite it being in the same compartment. And also the power supply is adjustable, so you can actually adjust it downwards if you wanted to fit a 360 millimeter AIO on the top. You can do that by adjusting it downwards. You'll limit your graphics card clearance a bit if you do that. Probably still would have had room if I would have adjusted it down, but I didn't need to. And it has the room for the two 140 millimeter fans on the bottom. You can use that for intake for the graphics card. And in my setup, I also have the rear fan set as intake as well to get fresh air to the AIO on top for exhaust. Another thing is that the front there is mesh. You can mount I believe up to 120. I'm not sure if you can do a 140 in the front fan, but some of the power supply cables might be in the way. Overall, I think it looks pretty good. And then here it is with the side panel on. Here we have the back of the computer with the back panel off, and you can see There isn't a ton of room for cable management in there, but with the channels that they do provide for the cable management, you can do a pretty good job of keeping the cables out of the way of the case panel. I didn't do a super good job here of trying to cable manage, and still was able to keep the cables at bay somewhat. And also keep in mind that for the front panel monitor or screen, that it does have 2 additional cables that you'll need to route through the case to the back of the case. I'll usually route it on the bottom channel there, and the cable will actually come out the back here in one of the slots, the bottom slots, and then you can plug it in to your I/O on the back.
Next, we'll cover the thermal performance of this case. Here you see the benchmark system components that are used to test the thermals in the case. Also, keep in mind that since the case did not include any fans, I did add some of my own, the same configuration that I used in the thermal benchmarks for the GameX Spark PC case, where I added 2 140mm fans to the bottom as intake, and 1 120mm fan on the rear as an intake as well. Looking at the thermals, you can see that the Jonsbo D41 mesh doesn't perform quite as well as the other airflow focused cases that I tested, such as the GameX Aero and the Cougar Archon 2, but it does perform better than the GameX Spark, and it does have that similar configuration of fans set up as the GameX Spark, and it's about 2 to 3 degrees better in the GPU stress test that I performed. And then looking at the CPU stress test that was performed, it fell right in line with the other cases that were tested, and 3 degrees better than the GameX Aero. Now we'll go over the pros and cons of the Jonsbo D41 mesh case. First of all, one of the pros of the case is that it has a sleek and sophisticated modern design, something that I liked and I think many other people would like as well. Another pro of the case is that it has flexibility for a variety of different builds. You can adjust the front power supply to accommodate up to a 360mm radiator on top, or else adjust it back up to be able to fit a larger graphics card into the case. So depending on what you can do, you can have that flexibility. Another pro of the case is that it's a compact case with a decent airflow, and going along with the flexibility, it can fit up to from an ITX all the way up to an ATX motherboard, and yet despite its compact size, it still is able to have a decent airflow in it with the amount of mesh on the case. Some of the cons of the case is that, first of all, it's not a great value. I paid about $150. I think it's listed for about $160 right now. That does include the screen, but it does not include any fans. So you'd have to pay for fans on your build as well and include that into the cost of your system. So not a terribly great value in my opinion. And another con of the case is that it has too short of legs. It does not have enough clearance on the bottom to be able to allow for sufficient airflow, in my opinion, for the GPU for intake. As to my recommendation of the case, I would recommend it if you are looking for a case, particularly with a screen integrated into it, and like the design of the case. Otherwise, if you're looking more for a value case, I would look elsewhere. That concludes my review of the Jonsbo D41 mesh case. Thanks very much for watching, and leave any questions or comments you have about this case down below. Also, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel if you like this video and want to see more like it. It'll help me to produce more videos like this. Again, thanks, and we'll see you next time.